an ignition interlock device, also called an IID, is something that if you've been convicted in court of a DUI in Marin County, Northern California, anywhere in California, and in a lot of states, it's a way that you can drive instead of suffering a straight suspension. It's also something that can allow you to drive in most cases, as long as, or if you have lost your DMV hearing and there's a suspension for that. So we're talking about IID with the DMV. All right, what we're talking about here is a procedure that can be complicated. And one of the reasons that you want to get a DUI lawyer who really knows what they're doing from the beginning is to help with little things like this and walking you through it, because the biggest problem that people face with the ignition interlock device is when they go to DMV and DMV says, well, you know, you haven't checked this box, this duck is not in a row, and all of a sudden you're sitting at DMV being told, no, you can't drive, you can't get this device, when your lawyer or public defender or whoever represented you in court or handled your DMV hearing said, now you can go do this. Certain things are needed to get an ignition interlock device. And when we talk about what problems can we come up against, what often happens is someone will either get a suspension letter from DMV or convicted in court or both, and then they think, okay, I can go to DMV and they just apply for this license. Well, there's certain things that you need to do, okay? One is you're going to need to have SR22 insurance. That's high-risk insurance on your person. It's not that expensive. You don't have to go through your own insurance company to do that. You're allowed to do it through a separate insurance company. So that's one of the things you need to do. The other thing is you have to be at least enrolled in a DUI school, a 3-month DUI school. So if you get a wet reckless in court and lose your DMV hearing and you get suspended for that, for the DMV hearing, because a wet reckless in court will not result in a suspended license, you need to actually do the 3-month DUI school, which is about 30 hours, 30 plus hours, not the 12-hour school that maybe, you know, the prosecutor said that they wanted you to do for the wet reckless conviction. So just know that ahead of time. The other things, when you go to DMV, there's a reissue fee to pay, and you also have to bring paperwork in from the ignition interlock installer showing that you have this on your vehicle, and everything has to be correct on that. So in order for it to be correct, your best chance with an ignition interlock is to use a provider that has good customer service, that is more locally, you know, here in Northern California, in the Bay Area, where if something goes wrong, they can fix it quickly, versus some of these providers that are in the, you know, East Coast, Midwest, Texas, whatever. They're far away, they're hard to get a hold of, and you can't get things done quickly, especially when mistakes are made. So customer service is really important with that, and also with the SR22 insurance, a company that answers the phone, that gets back to you quick, and that will, you know, help you through things and explain things. And, you know, customer service is big in this, because a lot of times what will happen is, even though my clients will do everything they're supposed to do and they go to DMV, something's not updated properly or something is wrong, and they need to be able to get a hold of those providers. And so like a provider, a SR22 provider like Breathe Easy Insurance Solutions has been, you know, over the last 10, 11 years, had the best customer service I have seen in the industry. And so if you go there, you're in very good shape with customer service for the SR22 insurance. Now, let me give you an example of what can happen when you go to DMV and there's an issue. You could show up and you could have DMV say, oh, this or that is not showing in the computer, so you can't get your ignition interlock device license, and you're going to have to wait longer to drive until this stuff gets cleared up. If, say, the SR22 is not on file yet, if you go with a company like Breathe Easy Insurance, you contact them right away, they will fax the DMV proof that you have the insurance, that they got you the policy days or a week ago or whenever you got it, and that almost every time helps clear that up. So that's just an example of great customer service. The ignition interlock device, if the paperwork is not done properly, they may say, no, this name is spelled differently than what's on your license. The paperwork is missing an S or whatever. You would have to go back to that company, and that's why you want something more local where they can get it to you quickly instead of it taking days or a week or whatever to send it to you from somewhere else in the country once you get a hold of them. Those are things that you really need to make sure work. And also with the DUI schools, you want to make sure that you're enrolled in the school and that proof of enrollment has been sent in, so that you want to time all this stuff properly. And so an experienced attorney will tell you, do this now, and this is why. You may end up getting the interlock on your car a week or two or more earlier than you need it. But what that does is that assures that when you get that suspension notice from DMV about a court conviction or the DMV suspension from your administrative per se hearing, you will have what you need to go right into DMV and get that ignition interlock license. Something else that I want to make sure that people are aware of, in Marin County and a lot of the San Francisco Bay Area, we see a lot of cars that are nicer cars, a lot of Teslas and Porsches and things like that it can be a little more tricky to get an ignition interlock device properly put on those cars. And sometimes really old cars have issues. There can be an issue if you have a car that has a bad battery. Anyway, especially with the high performance cars, what I will let my clients know is that the ignition interlock device can be put on some, and some it just won't work. With the Tesla, it may void your warranty. You may not want to put it on that. So what you may need to do, well, the first thing you want to do is talk to the ignition interlock provider and see if they think they can get it on the car, and make sure that they have, a technician who can do that. Using a company like LifeSafer and going with talking to David Nico or his people at LifeSafer, the ignition interlock device company. They're local and they deal with a lot of high-end cars, and they have their own people that are in, the areas that will work on your car, on your higher-end car or any car. Other companies just farm out to whatever garages they've contracted with, and they don't all have the experienced technicians who can do this. Usually there's not a problem with any of them, but sometimes there is, and why take the risk? And especially when you have a more expensive, higher performance car. So if it turns out that your car, your Porsche or Tesla or whatever is not going to get an ignition interlock device on it, you're going to need to have another car that you can put that device in. And so you may need to trade cars with a family member, a friend, or whatever, for however many months you need to have the device for. You may need to go out and quickly buy another vehicle that resell it later or whatever, so that you can have the device on it, so that you can drive. Because with an ignition interlock device, you can drive anywhere, anytime, which is so much better than just a work-related restricted license where you have to wait a month before you can start driving to work and back, and only to work and back, or work-related driving. So the interlock in most cases is the way to go, but it's just a matter of understanding all of the different things that can happen, that can go wrong with these. And I mean, the fact that I've just been talking for, it seems like about 10 minutes about this one issue, I could talk for hours about this. I could tell stories forever about this. Just yesterday, I was dealing with a client who has a Porsche and in fact, needed to actually put it on a different car because that one wasn't going to work, and then had issues with DMV. And so, the companies were able to help her out, move her along to get her the ignition interlock device license eventually, which she was able to get this morning, and is very happy about it, and everything worked out. It can get a little emotional and stressful, but as long as you have companies that have really good customer service and an attorney who knows what the heck they're doing and how all this works, so that the client feels like they're in good hands and that this will get done, mission will be accomplished. And the goal here is to get someone on the road with as little downtime without driving as possible. And typically in these cases, if everything's timed right, we can have someone end up with, at most a day or two of not driving, and sometimes, not even a full day of not driving if it's timed correctly. So feel free to reach out for any questions about these ignition interlock IID devices in Marin County or anywhere in California, the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm happy to answer these questions. It's important that you make the right decision about getting the right DUI lawyer early on in the process, as in right after you get arrested, because I can't tell you how many times I've had people call me up and say, hey, the person who's representing me doesn't know what they're doing and I need advice here. And I'm happy to give out free advice, but if you've already got a lawyer, they're the ones that's supposed to take you through from beginning to end. And unfortunately, too many of them do not, because they don't understand this whole process. And, that may just be that they haven't taken the time to learn it all, or they don't do mainly DUI or just DUI like I do. So again, feel free to reach out, give me a call, go to my website. You can contact me from there, and, I can usually return calls on weekends and evenings, 24/7. We get back to people as quick as we can. Unless we're asleep, we'll usually call you back pretty quick once we get up. And good luck with everything.